Argentina passes a historic law enabling the legal termination of pregnancy up to 14 weeks.
And the Green Wave movement spreads from Argentina across the world.
But meanwhile, the United States is, instead, taking cues from a neighbor where abortion is completely outlawed, with no exceptions.
In El Salvador, they changed the law. They enforce a total ban on abortion since 1998. And since then, many women have been convicted and imprisoned.
11 años que estuve dentro de la cárcel.
El Salvador. This is a country that is considered one of the most dangerous places in the world for women, according to the United Nations. And there are many forces at play that may lead the United States down the same path unless we fight back.
This is Entonces, a video series built on the Green Tide Rising podcast. I'm your host, Mónica Morales Garcia.
And I'm Asha Daya.
U.S. officials turned their attention to El Salvador.
The civil war has been intensifying.
The U.S. was funding the human rights abuses of the Salvadoran government.
The question remains, how far is the U.S. prepared to go to prevent the unacceptable?
The peace accords happened in 1992. In 1994 were the first fully democratic elections in the history of El Salvador. This was also where we started to see sort of Republican operatives thinking about using abortion as a wedge issue in the United States politics. What we do know is that one of the key anti-abortion movements in El Salvador, Si a la Vida, started in 1992, and by 1994 it had become officially affiliated with Human Rights International, which is a strong anti-abortion group that's headquartered in the United States.
Thousands marched in El Salvador on Sunday, posed the potential for Bukele to seek a second consecutive term.
It used to be that the Salvadoran constitution prohibited a re-election of a president. But over the course of his first term, Bukele took steps to control every branch of government, which allowed him to bypass a constitutional ban on consecutive terms.
Against all adversity, we transform El Salvador from the most dangerous country in the world to the safest in the Western Hemisphere.
El Salvador's President Bukele has increasingly engaged in anti-democratic policies.
How do you pacify a country?
We literally doubled the army to fight crime, to use the army to fight crime.
Bukele jails his political opponents and targets the most marginalized to enforce his dictatorial agenda. The Republican Party, in particular, has been fully embracing El Salvador's president ahead of a potential second Trump term.
All of a sudden, for the first time in decades, people can go out at night.
And a number of people, including Matt Gaetz, have talked about how we need to study what's happening in El Salvador and adopt some of those policies here in the U.S.
And Nayib Bukele has converted El Salvador from the murder capital of the world to a vibrant, stable partner for security.
The extreme right has targeted abortion rights and LGBTQ rights in the name of security and fuel misinformation and to move people by the emotions. We are seeing the impact that a full ban of criminalization could make in women.
Yo soy una de las 17.
Last 17 is a campaign amplifying the experiences of the first 17 women who were incarcerated for obstetric emergencies and sentenced to 30 to 40 years in prison.
Hablo mucho con las diferentes organizaciones porque una ley puede ser aprobada, pero si no hay gente consciente de la necesidad de hacer cumplir esa ley, de nada nos va a servir que esté aprobada.
Sé que mi esfuerzo ha valido la pena y ahora yo estoy muy contenta de regresar nuevamente con mi familia.
They want to continue to think about how to fight for change in El Salvador at a moment where authoritarianism is increasing and these women who have so much to lose, who are terrified of going back to jail, are still at the front lines fighting for change.
Me han ofrecido asilo, me han ofrecido la oportunidad de vivir en otro lugar, pero el problema está aquí. A mí sí me interesa que las mujeres tengan mejores oportunidades. Lo estoy haciendo para ellas. Y pues lo que tenga que pasar, que pase, pero que pase aquí en El Salvador.
As Mujeres Libres shows, we can flip the situation by generating innovative ideas. But I think no one should have to go through what Teodora went through to become an activist.
And I hope we can start to move social movements in the US to have that kind of collaborative, on-the-ground, community-based mobilization process that we've seen in other parts of Latin America.
Social media has become a powerful tool, a way to amplify voices. Grassroots movements are essential for our fight and in the Green Wave movement.